Hi Sagittarius, welcome to your November 2024 horoscope. November starts off with a new moon in Scorpio on November 1st. This new moon is in your 12th house, and what you can expect is a sort of inspiration and rejuvenation when it comes to your spiritual practice. But in order to feel that inspiration, you might first need to dig deep and face any skeletons you might have in the closet. And what I mean by that is you might need to face any difficult feelings you have, any fears you have around what it means to be spiritual, around letting go of this tangible reality, this tangible human body. For the sake of time, we won't go into more details about this new moon in Scorpio, but instead I will refer you to this dedicated new moon in Scorpio horoscope that I posted so that you can go ahead and get much more information, many more details about this new moon. 2 days later, on the 3rd of November, we have a bit of a tense day because we have 4 planets opposing each other in the sky. We have Mars and Pluto opposing each other, and we also have Jupiter and Venus opposing each other. For you Sagittarius, these 4 planets are triggering, they're highlighting your 1st, 2nd, 7th, and 8th house. And here we see this tension between relationships and yourself. We see this tension between wanting to compromise, wanting to meet others halfway, versus wanting to stand your own ground and do what you want. We see this pull between wanting to be vulnerable and admit that you need others, versus feeling confident and able to take care of things on your own. So overall, it might feel a bit uncomfortable on November 3rd. And if that wasn't enough, on November 4th, the next day, we also have Mars entering the sign of Leo and the Sun trining Saturn. For you Sagittarius, Mars is entering your 9th house, which means that you could feel much more excited and energetic about any classes that you're taking, any education you're following, or more rejuvenated and excited about any travels that you have coming up. And if none of those are applicable for you, it could be on a less tangible level where you feel like you have this burst of energy to focus on your values and your belief system. Because on this day, we also have the Sun and Saturn trining each other from your 12th and 4th house, it might especially be useful to keep track of what is coming up when you talk to your family, what is coming up when you spend time alone at your home, what is coming up when you partake in your spiritual practices. This might especially give you some answers or add some fuel to the fire so that you can figure out what are those beliefs, what are those values that you stand for. Then we have a couple of days of rest. The planets leave us alone for a bit until November 11th when Venus enters Capricorn. For you Sagittarius, this is your 2nd house of finances. You might feel like spending money. So just be mindful of that you can still keep things in check. But overall, you might also feel like there is a sense of love and harmony that you're bringing to your own relationship with yourself. And that's honestly such a beautiful thing, Sagittarius, to be able to experience in the month of November. A sense of wanting to improve the own relationship with yourself, maybe through the way you take care of yourself, maybe through the way you talk to yourself, just giving yourself a lot more love and care. A couple of days later, on November 15th, we have a full moon in the sign of Taurus. This full moon is jam-packed because the moon is conjunct Uranus, Venus is squaring the north and the south node, and Saturn is getting ready to go direct. For you, Sagittarius, this full moon is taking place in your 6th house. And with full moons, we see a manifestation come forward, or a result, a consequence come forward that is, basically a consequence or a result of actions that we have taken earlier. Because this is taking place in your 6th house, there might be actions you have taken around your health. Maybe you've started a new diet. There might have been actions you've taken in the past around your routine. Maybe you've started making sure you go to bed earlier than normal. On this full moon, you will start reaping the results of what you had sowed. And this could go either way. If you haven't been putting in the hard work, if you've been slacking off, you will see manifestations of that as well. Keep in mind that the moon is conjunct Uranus. So the results that you see coming in on this manifestation might be sudden, might take you by surprise. But overall, I would say that this sort of result, this revelation during this full moon, does help your soul in its path of evolution, because we have that south and north node as part of this conversation. A couple of days later, on November 19th, we have Pluto enter the sign of Aquarius. And even though I have said this quite a few times in the past year and a half, I promise this is the final time. Pluto will not go back into Aquarius, or will not enter Aquarius ever, at least in our lifetimes. So now that Pluto is for good in the sign of Aquarius, you will start trying to find meaning and purpose in the way that you communicate. You will start trying to figure out if the way you communicate is really aligned, if it's really being used for a higher good, or if you're facing any fears you might have around the way you communicate. And honestly, we could talk about Pluto and Aquarius all day. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to link you to this video. It's a live I did a while back, 1.5 hours long. We go in depth through all of the zodiac signs and what Pluto and Aquarius will mean for them. A couple of days later, on November 21st, we have the sun also entering a new sign, which is the sign of Sagittarius. And as it does that, it also sextiles Pluto. The sun is in your 12th house, Pluto is in your 3rd house, and it's a really beautiful way to kick off this Pluto in your 3rd house transit. It's almost as if something's coming up during your spiritual practices, maybe something that comes to your mind in a meditation or any other spiritual practice that you might have, that gives you a hint towards how you really feel about the way you communicate. Gives you a hint, maybe shows you a feeling, a difficult feeling or a fear you might have around the way you communicate. So I would recommend, with this switch of Pluto in Aquarius, and especially on November 21st, to sink down into your spiritual practices and make sure you don't skip them. We wrap up the month with a grand trine between Mars, the North Node, and the Sun. This is a grand trine that happens in the fire signs. And I do have to admit, it isn't an exact trine per se. It's not like we have this grand trine on one day. What happens instead is we have first Mars and the North Node trining, then the Sun comes in, and then finally Mars and the Sun trine together. So honestly, over a span of 5 days, this will be happening from the 22nd until the 27th. So during those 5 days, you might feel this flow of exciting, fiery energy. And honestly for you, because this trine is highlighting your 5th, 9th, and first house, So 1st, 5th, and 9th house, I should say. In general, you're feeling this flow of energy between really like expressing yourself, really being able to truly show yourself, present yourself in a way that's quite aligned with who you truly are. It's a very expansive energy. So honestly, an amazing way to wrap up the month. Overall, Sagittarius, thanks for joining me for this horoscope. I hope you look forward to November. I hope you take all of the opportunities you have in your spiritual practices, the opportunities you have in your health and well-being. And don't forget, this is a great time to start thinking about the way you communicate and any fears you might have around that. Thanks for joining me, Sagittarius. Don't forget to subscribe so that you can catch that full moon horoscope that's coming up. And I hope to see you again soon.